from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Wednesday, February 28th. So we still have the moon in this Libran energy, void of course, since yesterday afternoon. We've seen the moon in this Libra energy go void of course at 1:22 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Tuesday afternoon. And here we are sitting in this void of course all day until we lock into Scorpio energy at 10:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that is a very long day to be sitting in a void, which means that things are shaky, things are uncertain, things are unstable, and we definitely have a lot of magical aspects taking place. Yep, I said it, magical aspects taking place here today. That's really going to help fine-tune what it is that we need to be focused on, especially when we come out of this void and we do a deep dive in that Scorpio energy. So the transition from Libran energy into Scorpio energy is always felt. We are moving out of the shallow end of the pool in Libran energy, where everything is light and fluffy and we don't have to work so hard and we don't have to lose ourselves to some of the dark thoughts and dark emotions. And then we move into the deep end, and that Scorpio energy is going to take us all the way to the bottom of the pool to start unearthing a lot of different thoughts and ideas and emotions and memories and aha moments that not only will help us realize what it is that we have to disconnect, detach from, but what it is now that we have to start building towards. When the moon shifts into that Scorpio energy, we will be in a lot of water. We're already in Pisces season. So the Pisces energy is very healing, very cleansing, very transformative. We are doing shadow work. We are bringing things to an end, to a close, especially where soul contracts and karmic chapters are concerned. That Scorpio energy really going to pressurize our inner realm to understand what it is that we have to morph, what we have to change, what we have to transform within us in order to actually find a new placement of power. But we aren't going to see any kind of aspects between the moon in Scorpio and any other planet here today. We are going through this whole list. There are 9 different aspects taking place here today. 5 of them are going to involve the moon while the moon is void. So a very interesting dynamic. Let's jump into it. So the moon in Libran energy, void of course, is going to make a very tough interaction with Uranus. Uranus is the great awakener in this Taurus energy. This is going to tip the scales not in our favor. Instead, we are kind of sitting on the side of confusion. We are very rigid in our thinking. We are tunnel vision in our thinking. We are focused on the problem, focused on the issues. We're not really seeing a whole lot of clarity. Now, clarity is going to come in a very interesting way because Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, ruler of information communication, how it is that we express ourselves, in this Pisces energy is going to come up to, bump into, team up with the sun in this Pisces energy. This is a chasm. This is a magical time. This is a conjunction. This is a reset. This is a renewal, especially in our mental plane. First of all, the sun shining a bright light on our mental plane, really being downloaded with visuals, with inspirations, with visions, with goals, with dreams that just somehow pop into our mental plane. Now, we're talking about creative energy. We're talking about imagination. We're talking about understanding the path, the plan, the strategy on how it is that we're going to move forward. For those of you that are going to sit through this day and be like, nope, didn't get any epiphanies, nope, didn't get an aha moment, it doesn't necessarily have to happen today. May I remind you that these planetary aspects act as a, let's call it combination lock. And so here we've been trying to, figure out the combination. We finally hear the click with this particular aspect, but we haven't opened the door yet. We don't know what's in the safe. As we open up the safe, we are going to realize what is in that magical box. It does not happen right away, does not happen even overnight, but it does kind of trigger this opening, this, I'm going to call it adventure, this quest that will come into our realization very clearly over the next couple of days. So You have to be very careful with your words here today, with your thoughts here today. They have a very, very heavy weight to them. Heavy doesn't mean bad, just means important, because the sun, of course, is coming together with Mercury and really shining a bright light on what it is now that we need to start planning around, what we need to start imagining, what we have to start visualizing, what it is that we have to start working towards. Very freaking magical time. I'm not done yet, but we have a couple of aspects in between the magical aspects that we're going to continue talking about here today. So we have Mars, the god of war, ruling over our physical energy, our drive, our passion, our desire, even our anger in this Aquarius energy, semi-squaring, creating a little bit of tension and conflict with Neptune in his place in power in Pisces energy. So we are just coming out of this tension-filled applied pressure situation that we had here yesterday between Mars and Jupiter. And now we are kind of losing, if you will, our inspiration, our motivation. Even if that came in agitation and frustration, the energy is dissipating. Now, Mars kind of interacting with Neptune, this means that we're low on physical energy. We're low on F's to give. We're low on inspiration, low on motivation. We're just not feeling it. We don't have clarity. We have a little bit of restlessness. We have ants in our pants. We're not seeing things clearly. Instead, we're kind of getting caught up in confusion. Many of us creating that element of confusion for ourselves, doesn't necessarily have to be there. This is a overall situation where we're not seeing the vision, we're not seeing the goal, we're not seeing the dream, and we really don't care about it. We come out of this very, I'm going to say, intense energy between Mercury and the sun, and then all of a sudden, burnout happens. Okay, so keep that in mind. We sit in that for a couple of hours. Then we have Mercury come up to, bump into, team up with Saturn, because Saturn is in this Pisces energy as well. So again, anytime when we have planets coming together, they're kind of writing their own stories, meaning the story that Mercury and Saturn had been writing due to their previous conjunction last year, now we're kind of expanding on that book. We're adding a different chapter, if you will. Mercury interacting with Saturn in this way, and again, Saturn, the Lord of Karma, ruling over roles, responsibilities, system structures, foundations, in this Pisces energy, bringing an ending, a 30-year ending to a close, if you will. This is definitely going to fine-tune the thought process that we just kind of triggered and activated with Mercury and the sun. But this is going to feel pressurized. Why? Because Saturn brings a heaviness, a weight. He brings a responsibility. He brings a little bit of a reality check. So here we are, we're tunnel visioning, okay? We're damn well hell-bent, damn well and determined that we're going to figure everything out. We're going to do all we can to research the details so that we have the biggest, broadest picture that we could possibly have of a situation, of a circumstance. Here's where things get interesting. First of all, the want, need, and desire to actually communicate our thoughts, especially on serious matters, that's going to rise to the surface. But here's the thing, we're not in the position to do so. Mercury's in Pisces energy. So even though we have a lot of thoughts, a lot of ideas, a lot of different visuals that we want to express, we're having a hard time articulating them, expressing them, communicating them outside of our body. So first of all, the seriousness, the reality check that comes with Saturn, we're going to have a want, need, and desire to talk about it. I would say step back from doing that because it's not going to come out right. It's not going to be well received. It's probably going to be a little bit messy. But we also have a tendency to kind of slip into the darker thoughts, the darker focuses where, worries and anxieties are coming up, being too focused on the problem, so to speak, too focused on, trying to figure everything out overnight. And of course, that's just not a thing. Our concentration is going to be hyper-focused on one particular area of our lives. And if you're not careful, you're going to create a not so nice narrative in order for you to be tunnel vision and focused on the absolute worst case possible scenarios and circumstances of it all. We don't want that. We want to bring that to an end. Again, this is an ending just as much as it is beginning. This is going to be an energy where we may need to remove ourselves from social situations in order to kind of be alone, to kind of get a grip on our own energy, on our own thoughts, on realizing what is popping off within us without the want, need, and desire to express it immediately. Because again, we're not going to be expressing things, communicating things very well. Yes, we're in the mood to problem solve. That's great. But the problem is that we're actually creating problems that don't need to be solved. And so again, this is kind of like us getting real and raw and vulnerable, where we are actually the problem, where we're creating a bigger problem than there needs to be. We're pressurizing our own damn selves to figure everything out, when realistically speaking, we're in Pisces energy. We're not supposed to intellectualize the thought process. We're just supposed to surrender and allow those feelings, allow those downloads, allow those visualizations to come into our mental plane. This is not forced thought. This is sitting back, surrendering, and allowing ourselves to see what is flowing towards us. The answers are already in us. It's just that we're using our mental plane to try and think our way through something that we can't explain. It's already within us. We just need to quiet our brains long enough for our soul to actually speak. So there is a pressurized system where we want to come up with a plan. We want to create order out of the chaos. We want to breathe new life into old projects. We want a new level of commitment, but we don't know, again, what to actually focus on. Again, our tendency is to focus on this over-exaggerated element where we think everything is a problem, where we have to figure everything out now. That is not the case. That is just the feeling of bringing the old cycle to an ending, to a close. It is a beginning as well, which means that we have to clear out the crud, so to speak. We have to sit in the funk. We have to realize where it is that we're putting too much pressure on ourselves to figure everything out. We have to sit in that. We have to feel it in order to heal it, and then we can release it, lighten the load, so to speak, and then get focused on the things that we actually have control of. Now, we're not done with these magical placements as of yet, but we do have a couple of other things that are going on in this little magical sandwich before we can kind of wrap this storyline up. The moon in this Libran energy, still void of course, is going to make an awkward interaction with the sun. So the sun is in Pisces energy. Anytime we have the moon and the sun coming together in any kind of aspect, there's a new awareness coming forth, a new aha moment, a new realization that now we get to work with. And especially kind of following all of these other energies that we just talked about, we should be popping off with a different realization. We should have a new awareness. We should have a new focus. And so this is going to put us in a situation to kind of see where it is that, yep, we did tip the scales in the dark parts, where we were creating problems for ourselves, where we were applying pressure on ourselves that didn't need to be there. Now we're going to reel ourselves back in and try to reset those scales, so to speak, and find a common ground, find a middle point. Okay, so that was the moon with the sun. Now the moon is going to make an awkward interaction with Saturn. Okay, so here's where the weight comes back. Here's where the roles, the responsibilities come back. Here's where the reality check comes back. Here's where us dipping back into the darkness, dipping into the fears, the doubts, the insecurity, applying the pressure, applying the focus on all the things going wrong comes back. And we feel this double fold because, of course, the moon is our emotions. The moon is void, so we lose ourselves in the void. And then what happens? The moon goes ahead and makes the same awkward interaction with Mercury. Okay, so our heart and our head are not on the same page. Okay, so this is an interesting dynamic because we've already talked about Mercury, the Sun, and Saturn kind of having center stage here. And now emotionally speaking, we're going through and aspecting all of these planets in order for us to find an emotional balance point. But that comes, especially with the Libran energy, through sitting in the extremes. So emotionally speaking, in this Libran energy, we want to find peace, harmony, and balance within ourselves. We don't want the scales to be tipped in a darker place. We want them to at least come into balance if we can't push them into our favor. The mercurial energy in this Pisces energy, again, not thinking clearly, we're just kind of trying to blend our intuition with our intellect. We're thinking very abstract, and that is why we can't get on the same page with our emotions, because the Libran energy really does rely on what we have control over in the here and now, what is matter of fact, what we can concentrate on actually having control over in order to achieve balance, while that Mercurial energy in Pisces just going with the flow, the choppy ass waves, up and down and back and forth and washer machine, it's all over the place. So we are definitely not in alignment between our heart and our head. The moon then goes ahead, makes a very tough interaction with Neptune in Pisces. So this is going to illuminate again where we're trying very hard to stay rooted in the here and now, present in the here and now, focused on what we have control over, focused on how to bring balance back into our lives. While the Neptune and Pisces energy, we just don't even want to deal with it. We don't want to deal with reality. We are feeling overwhelmed, overstimulated. We are just in this particular element where we want to curl up in a ball and just kind of wait it out. We are not really tapping into our higher selves. We're not really tapping into our intuition, because the moon in Libra has us all effed up, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, never really finding this middle point, never really finding common ground. We can feel super oversensitive, hypersensitive. We are tapping into the subtle energies that we can't make sense of as of yet. It doesn't feel good, so our natural default is to just curl up in a ball, live in la la land, kind of wait it out. Okay, so the last aspect taking place here today, this is going to kind of bring the energies full circle. The sun in Pisces energy, going to come up to, bump into, team up with Saturn in this Pisces energy as well. So this is another conjunction. This is another storyline ending and a new storyline beginning. The sun in this Pisces energy trying to shine a bright light on what needs to end, what needs to die, what we have to let go of, what we have to surrender to in order to start fresh and start again. So just as much as this is an ending, we are seeing the, let's say, potential for a new beginning. But this energy between the sun and Saturn, first of all, is going to feel very heavy, because the responsibility that we're currently kind of feeling on our shoulders, that's coming from Mr. Saturn. The reality check of what it is that we have to let go of in order for us to pursue our new chapter, that's now coming into realization. So let me kind of give you a little bit of detail on that. We, although very vague at this point, we're starting to understand what it is that we want to build towards, what we want to bring to life, what we're inspired and motivated to actually pour our time, energy, and attention into. But it comes with a cost. And that cost is what we have to let go of, what we have to cut the cord with. Now, that may be jobs, it may be people, maybe habits, maybe where you live. It may be all of these different factors. But here's the thing. Karmically speaking, Mr. Saturn, karmically speaking, we can only level up to a new chapter if we are willing to let go of the elements that are keeping us rooted in the old chapter. And so again, this is very pivotal, very karmic, very much giving us a glimmer of what it is, our visual, our dream, our goals, what it is that we would like to start building towards, but whether or not we are willing to pay the price, which is a sacrifice of some sort, to close the door on something that we've been pouring into for at least a year, because that's the last time that we would have had a conjunction between these two. But technically speaking, I'm not even going to say 30 years, because some people aren't even 30 years old listening to this, and they're like, what? How am I supposed to close the door on everything that I've ever lived through? It's not that dramatic, but we have to see the topics and themes over the last, I'm going to say 3 years, really come to a head, understanding that we had to go through very important tough love life lessons, chapters. We had to build a certain structure, certain relationship in order for us to reach this pivotal point of growth and evolvement. And now we've outgrown it. Now we have to move on from it. But the want, need, and desire to continue to hold on to these aspects, that is very much there in our egoic programming. And those are the exact aspects that are holding us back from actually launching forward and pursuing this new path, this new goal, this new vision, this new dream. So that takes place at 4:26 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And again, We are waiting until 10:10 p.m. in order for the moon to actually leave the Libran energy, to get out of that dark void, and to lock into Scorpio energy. And as that's happening, we have no other aspects taking place here today. It's like this karmic roller coaster between the sun and Mercury and Saturn. They do their thing, and then we sit in it. We're sitting in the void. We just need to be fluid and kind of see what's coming at us, the thoughts, the memories, the emotions, the dreams, the goals, the visions. And then the moon shifts into Scorpio, and that is when we're going to feel a major shift in our soul, in our spirit, unpacking what it is that we have to let go of in order to actually advance in our goals, in our visions, in our dreams, to move forward, bringing something new to life.